Over Christmas, a lot of people were spending time with their families, roasting chestnuts over an open fire, etc. But others were engaging in an outrageous debate on X about H-1B visas, including Vivek Ramaswamy. And here his take on the whole issue kind of veered off into something entirely unrelated. And he posted a whole rant about the false idols that American kids grew up with via tropes that are in Hollywood films and TV shows. And that's the reason he supposes they have been raised to be lazy, mediocre slobs. His take really took me aback. I thought that he had more discretion than to say what he just said. But in case you missed it, I'm just going to read it to you now. Here's his take. The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zach and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. Fact. I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates.
Flag on the play. Even if it was showing you the most aspirational content known to man, limiting your kids' television and entertainment would have been a good idea anyways, no matter what they were watching.
Right, and limiting their social life, as in not letting them go to sleepovers, that comes up next, is objectively bad for their development. We have a 20 from Mr. Moose Knuckle. Happy 2025 PCC. Hope y'all had an awesome holiday. Question for the panel. What's your guys' general consensus on adult Lego builders / collectors? Wholesome hobby or childish hobby? Wishing you guys a prosperous 2025.
Mary?
Personally, I think that it's a childish hobby, but you have to be okay with that.
It takes it's kind of like puzzles, right? It takes a lot of work to actually go through it, and you have to stick with it. No, I think perfectly reasonable hobby for an adult to have. What I find funny about it is they're expensive as hell, so you're actually pricing out the middle class with most of the Lego stuff these days anyways. If there's any critique of it, it's that it's a bourgeoisie rich person hobby and not a proletariat hobby.
But it also depends on what it is, right? Like, they have adult Lego sets, but they also have ones that are for the children.
Yeah.
And I do think it's childish, but you have to own it and not be ashamed of it for it to not make you childish. You know what I mean? We have a 20 from the Manic Mustache. Happy New Year, Crisis Actors. Congratulations, Mr. Dasvik, on the acquisition of the new fiancé. I hope both of you find continued success in all that lay before y'all. And remember, a small change can lead to big opportunities.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, continuing.
Okay. Here he calls for more movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends, more math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV.
Well, then his complaint seems to be about the mediocrity in general of entertainment as an actual entity, not just the type of entertainment you're getting, but what you're actually watching doesn't sound like it matters to him. He just thinks you should be doing something else. It doesn't matter whether you venerate the prom queen. It matters that you're watching anything at all, which is stupid because moderation is important, of course. but it's got nothing to do with the type of stuff you're watching. I would draw your argument back to the thing that people have been saying for 20 years if you're part of shill media, which is like video games cause people to be violent. Well, that has been repeatedly proven to be untrue. So if playing video games that are violent doesn't make you violent, does watching TV full of mediocre people just turn you into a mediocre person? No, I think that's an unbelievably simplistic way to look at the human condition here in America.
Yeah.
And I think how you're raised plays way more of a role than whether you watch Saved by the Bell or not. Okay.
Yeah, it's weird how he did that subtle switch in his language. He just doesn't like that anyone watches TV ever. Or has a social life.
Or they're kind of just dorks that never got over. Look, and we've talked about this before. It is largely a misconception that everybody gets a happy ending, and the dork who was a dork in high school goes on to be wildly successful, and the jock ends up being a burnout drunk at the local bar. And that's not just in movies and television. Like, there's like, what is the Taylor Swift song? Mean? Like, basically about that.
Yeah.
Right? Not really how it works. They'll marry an 8. They'll own a car dealership. They'll be successful. They'll have kids and they'll live in the suburbs. Sucks to suck. That's life.
The attractive, popular guy.
They have social skills that actually benefit them in the future.
Right. The attractive, popular guy in high school who had a lively social life and did sports and got along with people and his teachers. He's more likely to be a successful adult.
If anything,
true.
What it shows is that he kind of fell victim to the actual narrative of the movies that he's critiquing, which is like, so for movies and television for years, have you ever seen the trope? It's like, what I've learned is that any guy who ties a sweater around his shoulders is automatically an asshole. It's a trope of the 80s. Right? So they believe that, if you were a jock in high school, that you automatically pushed kids in lockers and that you were a jerk. And in the narrative world of entertainment, the jerk gets his comeuppance, because otherwise, why would you make a movie unless there's a happy ending, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is everybody in a movie is into a movie unto themselves, so they are the lead character in their film. And life is far more complicated than that. And he's kind of boiling it down to a weird type of derivative outcome that's not actually real.
The whole thing is a massive cope, in my opinion. We have another 20 from D-Man. Ikea is adult Legos. Same wordless instructions.
Olivia loves putting Ikea furniture together. She loves putting furniture together.
That's kind of insane.
Yeah.
But more power to her. I'll make sure to call her if I ever have a piece of Ikea furniture that I don't want to make. I'm going to continue where he left off. So he said, more books, less TV, more creating, less chillin', more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall.
Look, all of that is fairly good advice, I guess. I don't know what that has to do with Corey in Boy Meets World.
It doesn't. He's
cheating on
just
Topanga
spewing.
is the real problem.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with kids watching cartoons or hanging out at the mall. Why is that bad? He's just saying if you don't spend all of your time doing something productive, then you're not doing something that's worthwhile. And I think that's a very materialistic worldview.
Well, it's not just that. He's focusing on it through the lens of tech, right?
Yeah.
Which is a very insular profession for a lot of them. Whether you're writing code or doing something, you're interacting with yourself and maybe a couple of other people on your team, right? But a lot of careers require you to have very, very strong social skills. Some of the best off people today are people who work in sales, who have to know how to talk to other people and interact with other people. They have to be able to build social relationships. All of those things are the things that he's talking about as being a waste of time. Going to the mall, hanging out with your friends. No, learning how to interact with other human beings is not something that necessarily makes you lazy. Now, it can if you focus on partying and interacting with other people in lieu of actually starting a career or something like that. But it's kind of like he's taking a very, very complex issue and he's boiling it down to what his viewpoint can sort of dissect. But that's not everybody's lived experience.
I think that he is mad, like any Screech would be, that in real life Zach Morris gets the girl and the job and like it or not, people who are not as intelligent as you but have other achievements or advantages over you that they didn't earn will outperform you almost every time. And it doesn't have to do with your work ethic or your raw intelligence level necessarily. People need to learn to be in the world. It's kind of why I am more pro like teenagers having dating experiences, you know, like in a controlled environment at least. When so many people say, well, what's the use in that? Well, it's not useful, but we should be doing useless things and making useless things like art.
Define useful, right? Like,
yeah,
like, what do you mean? Like, how
but the point of it is that it's useless to hang out at the mall, and it's useless to watch or even to make a TV show. That's the point, is that it's edifying in some other less tangible way that doesn't make money. And he seems to only interpret value in the world in what you call tech mindset. And he's a striver, and he's resentful against people who didn't have to strive. And I really wish that someone who became a multi-billionaire in their 30s could just be grateful for that, instead of spewing their resentments all over the timeline and hating on the people that were cooler than them in high school. Like, grow up.
I'll actually give you, like, if I was to critique myself at work, on top of, like, critiquing this show or how I do on this show, which I am very, very harsh on myself with how I, like, every time this show's like, oh, that went awful for me. Point being, like, if I had to judge myself harshly, I would say that I don't do enough in actually, like, networking. Like, you come across a lot of people in this job where you meet, you know, whether it's guests who are on Timcast or other shows, and you have the potential to meet and network with a lot of people. But since I am more inherently introverted, I tend to do my work and go home. Now, a striver might do well in that in tech, but in this profession, it's good to meet people and know people. That's important, which is the opposite of what he's saying here. He's pretending like that doesn't matter. It matters.
Yeah, Vivek is one of those people who hates on PostWork Drinks.
We just talked about that.
Funny how that comes up once again.
He's with the Gen Zers on that one.
Yeah, there's too much of an antisocial streak these days, just in general. I don't know why people in their 20s are acting like they're retired and they like to go home and like drink a cup of tea.
Was it you that I saw post? No, I saw somebody else post. It was like me and my it's like me after work, and it was like somebody in their room watching TV, and somebody says, hot take, this isn't good unless you're in your late 30s or early 40s.
Yeah, at least get old first.
It became like a meme where it's like everyone's like me acting like a grandpa, like I'm home on a Friday. Like, it's not a flex to be like, and I was that person. For the most part, work, skate, and go home. That was me. But I never thought of it as a flex to be like, oh, home by myself on a Friday night rather than out partying. Like, why is that a flex? It's just weird.
Yeah, I don't think that partying as a lifestyle is cool, but specifically not partying because you think you're above it all is extremely uncool. And I don't like that that's an increasingly popular sentiment. Like, it became a meme, like, oh, that, like, when you cancel on your friends.
Yes.
Like, that's not cool. Like, just, in fact, if you don't want to hang out with people, just say that. You know, just own that.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.